Welcome to another episode of Uncensored Daily Radar, where your fellow foiled friend scans the entire globe for what may or may not be artificial and nefarious activity. We go through satellite radar as well as the zippity zip zap radar, aka NEXRAD, to better understand atmospheric and environmental conditions in full context. Before we get started, there are a few things that you should know. Number one, I repeat, I am not a meteorologist, but I am a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist, which obviously makes me far more qualified to analyze atmospheric conditions. Number two, videos are fairly short, but feel free to skip ahead to any section you're most interested in. And lastly, if you'd like to see these daily radar videos, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Otherwise, this video is about to reach a paywall, and we'll pause right now. Now. Okay. All right, let's get started. Good afternoon. It is October 16th, about 6:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's get started. All right, so we're going to do a general overview of what's going on NEXRAD, hop into some data and news, come back, do a deep dive into all these regions, and then we're going to check out trails for the rest of the world. I'm going to start with this page because, as you know, I've been trying to figure out what all this movement is. It looks like something's floating in the air, all that green. And it turns out it might actually be birds, that particular thing we're seeing on NEXRAD. They actually use NEXRAD towers to track bird migration, because the Doppler that's put out, that radar, the bounce back off of birds is unique. So they say they're able to really differentiate between rain, insects, birds, things like that. So this is all supposedly birds. Now, of course, you could put on your tinfoil hat and say this is all just a cover-up. It's all a lie, and that there's something else floating around in the atmosphere. Could be. But I feel like if they were going to do that, they would also cover up all the other crazy things that we find on NEXRAD as well. And boy, oh boy, do we see a lot of interesting things. For a long time, I was comparing this map to the pressure because there did seem to be a correlation. And it makes sense because birds do not fly in storms, which is where, low pressure systems generally are. As you can see, high pressure, high pressure. Now, these have been glowing regardless of birds or pressure. Right now, there are birds there. I'm sorry, this was last night. But sometimes we don't see any birds here, but this area will be glowing blue. So that's why we need to keep watching every single day. All right, for those of you who are new, every single glow you see here is a NEXRAD radar station. The official statement is that's just simply Doppler radar helping us track weather systems, give us forecasts, things like that. Well, the conspiracy theory is that these towers are equipped with more technology than just Doppler, but they can actually utilize that built-in microwave technology to heat up the atmosphere. And that can do several things. One, obviously, it can heat up areas, create excessive drought, make them more prone to wildfires. Two, if you can create a wild temperature swing that inevitably results in major winds, severe winds. We're hearing a lot about micro bursts, which are essentially tornado force winds, but just moving straight. It's like normal wind moving around, but it's going the speed of a freaking tornado. And we're hearing about those quite often. And another thing, by creating these heated areas, you're creating high pressure zones. And high pressure zones can be used to steer low pressure systems, aka storms. So theoretically, if you could do this, you could create high pressure zones here with the storm here, and it would be forced to stay along the path that you've given it. Other things are, it's theorized that these towers can emit certain frequencies that can manipulate humans or animals themselves. All right, so before I close these out, yes, there is a correlation between NEXRAD and bird migration. Of course, we have some outliers. Supposedly there aren't a whole lot of birds here, yet we are seeing these towers acting up over here, here, and here. Also, New Mexico. So before we started seeing all of this kind of activity, the most we would see is a little bit of blue at night. But then we started seeing all this blue and green all over the place. And these towers were only gray at night. So seeing any blue is odd. And I really do want to check it out before we move on. Yeah, like there really isn't. So that's these two towers here. See how these are acting that way? 3, 4. These are all acting up. And here and here. And notice how they're supposedly, this, by the way, I'm matching the maps down to the minute. And these towers are acting up as though there is something there. And yeah, you can say, well, it's close enough, but no, it should be exact. This is saying there weren't enough birds to instigate the radar in this entire state, and this entire state, and this entire state. Yet in this entire state, this entire state, this entire state, we're seeing a lot of NEXRAD activity compared to what we're used to seeing. And these are acting up over here as well. But again, it's generally right, but I do want to really nitpick because we have to find out truly what that's about. All right, I'm going to close this out. So yeah, there are 3 states that are acting up that supposedly at this very minute had no birds. And I'll even go up another 5 minutes. Nah, doesn't change. Okay, and then the pressure map. Low pressure over here by like California, Nevada, partially Arizona, Utah area. You're never going to guess what finally came in the mail today. Shampoo. Oh my gosh. It was delayed, and I've been dumping baking powder on my head to make it not look so greasy. I couldn't get away with it today though, so I put a hat on. I'm so excited to take a shower. Oh, it's going to be amazing. I'll be able to, my hair won't look so disgusting. All right. Now this is the 15th. Okay, so this was last night. I know because they get more sensitive at night. This was during the day yesterday. Lots of activity. We did cover this interesting rippled radar here and that kind of static looking radar. There were birds showing up here at the time. Now, this kind of rippled radar, as we discussed yesterday, try to find it. When I say rippled radar, I'm referring to radar that kind of looks like this. It looks a lot like this. The official statement is that it's just an artifact. Like it's not really there. It's just a reflection off of birds or insects. Now, that's a legit thing. And there were a lot of birds here. So that could very well be what this was. But when you see it, boom, 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 around a storm, that's usually when I get suspicious because 2 things. 1, birds don't typically fly through storms. They're not going to migrate through storms. 2, actually, there's 3 suspicious things. 2, whenever I see that, I'm able to predict how severe the storm is going to be. I shouldn't be able to do that if those are just artifacts. I can tell if there's going to be crazy tornadoes or crazy floods or crazy hail, something abnormal that's probably going to make the news. That's how I can usually gauge the severity of a storm is based off of this. The conspiracy theory is that when you see this repetitively, that could be evidence of frequency manipulation of a storm. You would see this when 2 frequencies collide. The other thing, I had to pause it for a second. My cat was doing something crazy, and now I forgot where I was. So I'm just going to move on. But yeah, this could be just a regular, genuine artifact. Could be an actual reflection off of something flying around. Or if you see it excessively, it usually means that something crazy is going to come out of the storm. And if it were just an artifact, that shouldn't be the case. Oh yeah, I remember what I was going to say. Also, when you see them incessantly, when it's suspicious looking, people on the ground end up usually sending me pictures from that area of their clouds. And they usually look as though a frequency was shot right through the clouds. And I'll show you that in a second. Like these. See these? Now this can occur naturally. That would be called a atmospheric gravity wave, like this. But the thing is when you almost 100% of the time when we see incessant rippled radar in an area, you will see that represented in the cloud cover as well. And if you really, and again, if you were to shoot frequency in the atmosphere, you would expect that the cloud cover would respond in this manner. So really, this is just something we have to watch over and over and over again. You know, I just saw this and I clicked on it. Do you see this? When I describe how the first chemtrails looked when I was a kid, or the ones that they were practicing with off the Florida coast, this is what they looked like. They lay them out like this, but they would do them in X's. They would do X's along the coast and then come back and circle, circle, circle around them. And I would always explain whenever I talk about this that they didn't haze out. They puffed up like big fat white clouds and they'd float off the coast. That's exactly what they used to look like. But then over time they got better at making them not look so unusual, and they would haze out better. And they haze out better now than ever before. It's just been the number one goal, I think. They've changed how they look. But all right. So this was during the day yesterday. Activity over here. I remember seeing this several times yesterday. That tower went offline. Sometimes towers go offline. They're not, it's not that they're not working, it's that they're just not transmitting to the server here. And then I do want to follow up with what's going on over there with that. If anything ever comes of that. That storm looks pretty severe. Huh, I wonder what's going on up here. Or was going on up there earlier today. Ooh, look at that. Little sneaky storm down here. Okay, well, I'm not really seeing much from this bird's eye view, except I do wonder about what's going on over here weather-wise. It does look like there are trails going through here. Interesting. So this area has a dense fog advisory. It looks like I have short hair. I look like I'm Lord Farquaad. Oh my goodness. You know, before we hop into those warnings, I want to follow up with the tropical systems. Technically, there are none over here. We do have this guy. This guy has the tiniest little trajectory. 91E, tropical depression. It looks like they think it's going to go east. I don't know. We can't even predict that right now. And then the other one is right here. This one is going right back where all the other ones were going. Now we had one over here, and that guy's been going northeast. I do wonder what happened to that. I wish they would show where the system, I wish I could go back and, can I go back in time on here? Let me see. No, I can't. You know, I actually have the premium account. I'm not logged in right now, but when I log in, yeah, I can't go back in time. If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, I just logged in. I can't. I cannot go back. All right, so yeah, very quiet right now as far as tropical systems are concerned. Let's go back to the weather warnings. We have coastal warnings here, rip currents, flood watches. Wait a minute. Oh, okay. I was going to say, did Daytona Beach cancel their flood warning? Man, they just keep reissuing it over and over and over again. For like a month straight, that place has been under constant flood warning. People there are going to start to not even pay attention to that thing anymore if they haven't already. severe flood warning over in eastern South Carolina. What? I'm trying to click on you. Well, I would suspect these are also rip current warnings. But I can't click on it. So that's interesting. We have some gale warnings along the northeast coastline, some freeze warnings, fire warnings over in Vermont because of the wind and the low humidity, frost warnings over in Canada, but they have different standards for when they issue warnings. Freeze warning in Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, West Virginia, along with some special weather statement. Okay, frost and calm winds, but it's showing a wind icon. I don't get these issue like warnings on here. Kentucky and West Virginia. We've got still Aberdeen is under, just like Daytona Beach, it's under severe flood warning almost all the time. Dense fog warning in eastern North Dakota. In southwestern Nebraska, strong thunderstorm warning. Whoa, red. Does this place have a tornado warning? Okay, so that's right now. Remember that storm we were talking about? The one that looked a little bit severe. Let's go back to that. Yeah, this guy right here. That's what I was thinking. Didn't look good. No good at all. Right there. Let's go up a little bit here. Let's see if this guy has a lot of rippled radar around it. There's one. That is interesting. Looks like 3 of them are going through. Hold on. I'm not really seeing excessive activity. Well, you know, there's that. And then 1, 2, 3 beams go through that. Could be a delay. Could have been 1 beam, and I'm just seeing 3 of them. It usually doesn't act that way. I would think there's probably 3 beams being shot into here, which would be interesting. Right through there. That's where the tornado is right now. But yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that system. Hopefully it falls apart. Yeah. Capable of producing a tornado. Well, thankfully I'm not seeing a whole lot of that next red activity. Let's hope we don't see any more. It just started, so let's hope we don't see any more by the end of the show. We have it all over New Mexico, sporadically freeze warnings, as well as western Colorado, freeze warnings. Southeastern Wyoming, high wind warnings, severe. Winter weather advisory in western Wyoming. Freeze warnings sporadically in central Utah. And in Fresno, around Fresno, Central California, dense fog advisory. I do wonder what is happening over here as far as trails are concerned. Beach hazards along much of the western coastline. What is this box up here? Air quality warning. What's the fire like up there? Huh. That is interesting. You remember how I said, what was it, about 6 or 7 days ago, all of a sudden all the smoke from Canada just poofed? I mean, all year this place has been on fire, like showing us all of its smoke. And there hasn't been any smoke indicated. But then why would they have air quality warnings here? Let's see what the AQI is like over there, what it is like over there. Any place in Alberta I'm seeing there. Oh, wow. Wait, it's called high level. I thought, oh my gosh. So high level has a high level AQI. But notice over here, I'm not seeing an AQI. Are they expecting it to go up? They're expecting it into tomorrow. Smoke is causing poor air quality, but where are they getting that warning? I'm not seeing any of these fires, and many of these may have already been put out. Yeah, so it's showing, I think this shows it for the last 30 days. That one, I mean, that one could be going. I wish it would put the date it was considered ended. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a mystery over there. And then gale wind warnings off of the Alaskan coastline. Anything going on in Hawaii? Nope. Nopedy, nope, 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 nope. Snowfall, light snowfall, accumulations of 1 to 3 inches. Heavy freezing spray warning. What? Offshore waters forecast for the U.S. Arctic waters sea forecast represent an average high. Okay. So wind, wave, and swell high individual waves. Well, okay. So I guess it's what it says. Heavy freezing spray. So the water. What? Freaking Arctic places. All right. Wind warning. We already went through hurricanes. The main reason we haven't had so many hurricanes in the Atlantic is due to all of this Saharan dust. It's hard for storms to get any kind of powerful circulation with this kind of dust. But notice how it's more to the east today. We might see something develop over here if this continues to stay out of the way. Nothing over here. Yeah, so I'd be curious to see if there's anything happening in the mid-Atlantic or even into the Gulf up here. We'll check that out. AQI, not good. Not good over here. Not good over here. Where do I go to see the fires? Makes sense. Matches where the smoke is. Nitrogen dioxide moves with the sunshine. Earlier in the day, it's higher at night. PM 2.5, not good over there. Still not seeing why this place would be under an AQI warning. Still not seeing it. Sulfur dioxide is pretty high, but it's probably higher down here. You would think that would be the reason why. Sulfur dioxide is not very good over here either. Let's check out surface ozone. Yep, it makes sense that that's so bad where the fire is. Carbon monoxide concentration, the only place it is decent is right over here. All right, what's the fire danger like? What was that? That was weird. Fire spread, fuel, moisture. So expected to pick up. Ooh, it's expected to pick up a lot over here. Get extreme. And then die off. Do, 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 do. Ah, earthquakes. Recent earthquakes. U.S. gets a lot of really small earthquakes. But, oh, you know what? Duh. Everywhere does. But the U.S. has the most advanced earthquake detection system on the planet. That, I mean, I believe that's the case. And so we can detect down to 0 mag, whereas other countries won't. So that's why you can see all these teeny tiny little dots. But everywhere else, you only see the big ones. And I have my settings down to 0 because I want to catch them. Gotta catch them all. Now, remember when I said it was interesting to see that there were some so far north in Alaska because I hadn't seen those? I did want to compare. So I compared back to I don't know, January, something like that. Let me see. This goes back to start time. Okay, February. And yeah, there are fewer up here than there are over here, but there are plenty up here. Lots and lots over here. All right, so again, storms are, well, I showed this to you yesterday, but we're expected to have pretty severe weather over here this weekend. And it looks like it's already sort of beginning, but up to the northwest. Let's see what they have to say.
As we mentioned, our threat for severe storms certainly in the cards as we head Saturday into Sunday from Arkansas through Louisiana. This was video, by the way, that you're looking at. This was from May the 15th in parts of Missouri. Boy, you can see what happened there, right? Some big-time severe storms. And problem is that we're going to set the stage as that area of that jet stream, by the way, kind of undulates through the Central Plains this weekend, Friday and Saturday, for some more storms.
Yeah, Scott County, Missouri, we had St. Louis that was targeted. It's been a nice break in between some of that activity, but those were some intense storms, and they were dangerous storms. We're not expecting anything that's able to produce, I don't think, some significant tornadoes by any means, but it's a return of severe weather, and Saturday does present not just damaging straight line winds, but also that rotating thunderstorm chance.
All right, so they think there's going to be tornadoes, but not strong tornadoes. I feel like, I mean, every tornado is strong, but I guess they're not expecting it to be too intense. And yes, remember what we talked about with the lack of that Saharan dust? Literally, this is the exact area I was talking about that a storm could develop. And yep, chance of development 20% over the next 7 days. I do wonder what the possibility is after that. Nope. But yeah, I guess that's the gist of the article. So we're going to watch for development over the next week in this area. Cause crunchy storms bring significant weekend threat. Didn't we just talk about this? Central U.S. soaking rain to the northeast. Oh, okay. This is a new one.
See more scenes just like this one popping up into portions of Colorado. It extends into Nebraska and Kansas, damaging winds, also some hail. Those will be the biggest threats. And closer to Colorado, there is an isolated chance, very slim, but it's there, to see some rotation with some of those storms out there today. Ben, you can really make out the energy. Here's the bowling ball that we've been watching consistently. We've got plenty of energy here. We've got right here. We've got the nice front. We've got plenty of energy being sprung all the way up into the north. We've got plenty of moisture in the place. We've got the elevation from the Rockies. And I'll tell you what, this is the perfect setup for the storm to cause some of these severe storms over this chunk of the country right here.
Yeah, it's something we're going to have to watch pretty carefully here. I mean, this system and this front that's moving through and this dip in the jet stream is really just kind of activating everything. We can kind of get a little bit of, well, everything coming out of this. I mean, we got some wind gusts that are going to be pretty damaging. I mean, we saw what happened over into California just a couple days ago, and that was the beginning of all of this. And even looking at our live radar currently, there are a few thunder showers, thunderstorms popping up, a little bit of lightning as well, all the way from Denver and down further south, and that is the exact spot where we could see some potentially severe weather.
Yeah, I think so. The front's moving through. A lot of the energy is just off to the west right now, but through the afternoon, a little daytime heating, it's all going to pick up. We've also got just enough moisture. Now, it's not real high, the dew points. We're into the 50s, Omaha at 61. It's just enough, though, and there's more in the way of heat, and that heat will add to, let's call it buoyancy, right? The rise in some of the atmospheric.
Makes sense, because that's exactly where we're seeing that hurricane come up. Not hurricane, tornado. Sorry, wasn't thinking. Okay, so it just updated. And yeah, I do see that rippled radar going through it again. It's the second time. The most severe portion of the storm. Now, it's normal to see the radar kind of zoop, 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 scanning the storm. But the stuff that tells me something weird's going to happen is some of the stuff I'm starting to see right now. Okay, so that's the second, or that's the third interesting thing that's appeared through this area with a possible tornado. So when it updates next, we'll have to see if anything else happens. This automatically updates. It last updated 9 minutes ago, so it will update here in the next minute or two. We'll have to come back and check it out. Also, they are transporting a lot of people from Alaska because remember, they flooded. It was a major, major flood.
And welcome back. Historic evacuations underway in Alaska after the remnants of a powerful typhoon caused severe flooding in parts of the state. Hundreds of Alaskans were airlifted by the Alaska National Guard and taken to an air base in Anchorage. Photos here on the screen show the evacuees. They're on board a C-17 Globemaster 3 yesterday. The typhoon, though, it washed away homes. It left many areas unreachable by car. At least one person reported dead, 2 others still unaccounted for. The Department of Homeland Security says the Coast Guard conducted over 8 hours of aerial searches. And welcome back. Historic evacuations underway in...
Oh, and I thought you guys might be interested in seeing this. I once showed this before, but many of you are new. So we keep hearing about this microburst and cloudburst phenomena that, you know, they're normalizing by saying, oh, we've always had these. I'm sure they've existed. However, the frequency of these occurring is suspicious, to say the least. A microburst is essentially wind that is the strength of a tornado. We're seeing homes get the roofs blown off. We're seeing entire sides of mountains losing their trees with no tornado, no hurricane, just the sheer force of a straight wind. That's not normal.
Microbursts can have winds well over 100 miles an hour. In this case, they had about 70, but some microbursts are... Jared, and keep in mind, a microburst can have winds well over 100 miles an hour. In this case, they had about 70, but some microbursts are just as strong as some weak tornadoes, so very important to know that. All right, let's talk about the difference. Here is how a microburst forms. You've got these updrafts in a thunderstorm. As they go up, they cool, they condense, and then you have all this rain and cloud cover, water up in the sky. Well, that's going to evaporate partially, and as it evaporates, it cools, and cool air wants to sink, especially when it's surrounded by warmer air. So as that air sinks, it slams into the ground in the form of very strong downdrafts. Of course, when the wind hits the ground, it has to fan out. And that's how the damage is caused, as those winds sort of run into the ground and then get spread out by those very strong winds. And here is a key part of the microburst. Those winds on both sides of the downdrafts, they're pointing in the same direction. So they're called straight line winds. You can see on one side of the downdraft, they're pointed to the right. Sometimes we also get them on the other side of the downdraft. But you can see on either side of the downdraft, they're going in the same direction. Now let's talk about the difference. Here is a tornado. A tornado formed when upper level winds are usually much stronger than the surface. You get this little barrel looking rotating thing. And then as the updrafts and the thunderstorms start to rise, that's going to sort of tip that circular column of air into sort of a vertical orientation. And then often we'll get what's called a wall cloud dropping out of the main cloud base. And then we get the rotating column of air. If it reaches the ground, that's your tornado. Remember, I showed you those straight line winds from the downdraft? This is completely different. These winds have a swirling pattern as they wrap around the tornado. Now, in this case, the National Weather Service was able to make a call early that this was a microburst. However, sometimes it's not that easy. I worked on the East Coast for a few years. Sometimes when they weren't sure, they go out and assess damage. It's a little bit easier to do this in a heavily wooded area, but notice this is microburst damage. See how those trees all flattened out in the same direction because of those straight line winds. A tornado, here's a look at tornado damage. You can see those arrows and the trees are kind of all pointing in different directions as they got knocked down, and that's sort of how they make that determination between a microburst and a tornado. In this case, they were able to make the call early, Jared.
You'd think if these have occurred so frequently for so long that we wouldn't need education on what they were. Also, cloud bursts. It's another thing, right? Have you heard of these? because people are talking about them like they've always existed as well. Cloudbursts. When a cloud drops all of its rain instantly in one spot. Literally looks like someone is dumping out a jar of water from the cloud onto a town. And guys, I have this problem. The more important a video is, the harder it is for me to make, despite the fact that I need to release it as soon as possible. Because the pressure of making it good, doing it justice, making sure it goes viral, it pulls the perfectionist out in me, and I end up getting stuck. Like, I need to make this really important video, and on what's going on with Pakistan, India, and Afghanistan. The implications are pretty intense, so there's pressure to make it as viral as possible. But I've been like racking my brain on how to do it this week, and it really should have already been out by now. Driving me nuts. But cloudbursts are causing chaos in parts of India and Pakistan. Tremendous amounts of rain falling in a short period of time over a concentrated area. As many as 300 people died in northwestern Pakistan after a cloudburst. The strength and volume of rain triggered flash flooding, landslides, and mud flows. You know what's interesting? Pakistan accuses India of weather warfare. And you guys remember when I caught trails over India? Both times they had catastrophic flooding. Well, remember who suffers the most from India flooding. It's actually Pakistan. Because India, when their dams get full, they release them and they go straight into Pakistan. So Pakistan receives the brunt of flooding when India floods. Interesting stuff. All right, let's get an update. Interesting, that was earlier. We have, okay, this severe storm popping out. Getting more severe. It is interesting. This cell here, this is where that really severe storm appeared. Look at what this tower did just before that happened. More energy. And then you see precipitation beginning right here. Boom. See that? It increases in energy. Precipitation appears. And instantly, this is where that tornado warning appeared. Three beams, which is odd. Rippled radar. Three beams again. And that's right. That's 9 minutes ago, so we'll receive another update here in a minute. Let's go region by region, but first I want to see what happened since we've been covering data and news. Yeah, and just for comparison, see this pulse here? Look at the other towers around it. You see anything else pulsing? No. Interesting. All right, we're gonna check out the far western states, the far eastern states, and then we'll close out NextRad in the center. Yeah, these towers have been going pretty nuts since before those Northern California fires. Again, that tower went out. This is from yesterday. Interesting. Yeah, we covered that last night. Okay, moving on to today. Oh. So this does it again. That tower doesn't do much. And then it goes off. All right, so... Whoa. Did it... Question is, did it... All right, so the question is, it looks like it froze in the, I mean, it's not sending to the server what it's doing. The tower's still on, but we can't see what it's doing. We can see, okay, so see all this static here? It's kind of glistening. See all that? All of this, it's glistening. That's how you know we're seeing a live footage. But notice, okay, so it's still glistening here as these two beams are shooting into each other. Still glistening. Okay, now it stopped glistening. This beam shot out here, and this is not glistening, which means it is frozen. That's actually not what it was doing. It froze at 17:05, still frozen, then it turns off. Or we can't see what it's doing at all. So it froze at 17:05, disappeared at 17:25, 20 minutes later. So for 20 minutes, we couldn't see what was going on with this tower as it's doing something very interesting, which, by the way, this is the tower that shot this beam directly down into Los Angeles. And there was an interesting cloud. It looked like a cloud that appeared, flowed against the wind pattern. And the second it got over LA, that's when those fires ignited. So there's some interesting things with this particular tower here. I do like to keep an eye out on this one. I do wonder if something odd might be happening in this direction. I mean, these beams are quite powerful. They can go pretty far. So I do wonder if it has anything to do with whatever might be happening over here in the storm. I doubt it. I feel like they would be able to just use their local towers for that. Maybe there's something going on in Utah. Are we going to start seeing fire warnings or some really interesting explosion? That would be interesting. Or power outages, something like that. I would like to know if something like that is occurring in this area, or even down here in Arizona and New Mexico, or even in Texas. Really, this whole area here could be, I don't know. I'd like to know what that tower was doing when we couldn't see what it was doing for 20 whole minutes. In fact, we've been doing this show for 41 minutes. So this guy, okay, yeah, that was a while ago. The zip zappery going on in Southern California, that's been 24/7 ever since I started the show. But when this tower up here starts doing some crazy stuff, that's definitely unique. And I'm not seeing the tower doing anything today. No, it is shooting out there a bit. These towers here in Arizona and New Mexico have quite a bit of activity. I do want to check that bird migration map again. No, we talked about it. I think there were birds there. Well, this is interesting. This is during the day. Looks like something happened here in southern New Mexico. My cat is starting to talk to me. Interesting. I wonder if there are trails up here. It's so weird seeing this moving west. Look at that. It's moving west. It's not, I'm not, yeah. Very, very rarely seen anything going west into the US like that. On the eastern side. That's a pretty powerful beam, but not this nearly the same as what's going on in Nevada. California. Lots of static zip zappery. Also, there are a ton of towers that are emitting something. A lot of circles. You can't see them clearly here. But because I have seen them clearly, I know that it's here. There's these radial pulses coming out of something that isn't NEXRAD, and there's like thousands and thousands of them all over the US, and they've been doing that. And it looks strange lately down here. It looks more like that static radar. There's something going on down here though. And they've been shooting out into the Gulf. I've been wondering what's been going on out there for a little over a week. They've been beaming out into the Gulf a lot. It's like there's a storm out there, but there isn't. See that? It's almost nonstop. What are they detecting out there in the Gulf that they keep picking up? They're not doing that over land incessantly. So what are they doing over the Gulf? All right, you. Yeah, that looks pretty severe over here. And it's still coming out, and that's what we're getting right now. Uh-oh. Huh. All right, so this tower is now out, so we cannot see what it is doing right now. Pulse, and then the tornado warning appears. I do wonder what that little red dot is too. Whoops. I went to the wrong spot. This right area right there. I do wonder what that is. Is that a glitch in the radar? Was there something there? I don't know. But that NEXRAD tower pulsed. And then instantly we have that severe area appearing. And it is getting quite a bit of attention. We're watching this live, so I keep checking back every 9 minutes. I'm just realizing that because it's 1 more minute until it updates again. But you know what I mean? I mean, if in 20 or 30 minutes we keep seeing interesting things entering that area, that's how I know the area is producing pretty severe stuff. In fact, it already looks that way. So it makes sense that that area is under a tornado warning right now. Yeah, see what I mean? It just looks like something's flowing through that green. Those are supposedly birds. I gotta wonder though, why are they flying? It looks like they're flying north. I'm hearing a lot of things about bird migration, how they're actually, some of them are flying in the wrong direction. And many of them are dying because of it. They're all very, very confused. And don't get me started about the bees. See how a lot of this precipitation is coming from right around that tower? Could be a mountain range right there, but looks interesting. All right, I do want to check this area of the storm out. Hello, kitty. Somebody came to visit me. He's a squishy girl. Good girl. My bench is squeaking. Is that my bench? I really should have paused it for a second there. Sorry. All right. Don't bite me. It's weird. I'm seeing like what looks like trail remnants, but I don't see the trails. And it could be in here. There's something going on in the system. It looks dirty. Doesn't look normal. And then whenever I see this kind of stuff, it's hard for me to see through that. But on the outskirts, usually I can find at least one. Okay, there's a line. There's little contrails right there. Teeny tiny little babies. I'm coming now. Lots of trails up here. Trail remnants. Lots of trails in here. Canada's got plenty of trails going on in here. There's an obvious piece. Trail. Remember how this area has the AQI warning, but there's no smoke? Maybe this has something to do with it. Could be, but you know, there's a lot of other areas that are getting those trails in Canada, so why don't they have any warning? Meow, 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 meow. Lots of trails coming off the coast here. Have I told you how much I love my internet? Lots of trails here. Lots and lots of trails up here. Look at all those black lines. Lots of weird stuff going on out here. We'll switch satellites and check out what's going on over at Europe. If we're even allowed to see it. They've been closing out that satellite so much. Ba-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. People underestimate how difficult it is to light yourself appropriately if you're wearing glasses. When I film this show, I'm not concerned about lighting. If I were concerned about lighting, I would definitely need a stationary set that's always set up for me, because that's just not feasible. But when I film all my shows that go on Instagram, my episodes that go on Instagram, I perfected where to put the lights so that my glasses do not reflect, but I still get decent lighting. I'm not getting decent lighting right now. I've got like the weirdest shadows. It's not flattering. But I'm not here to be flattered, am I? I'm here to catch the bad guys. No, I'm here to find answers. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just trying to find out what's going on. Whoa, that's kind of crazy. Look at the storm. Go up here and then it poofs. Poof. La-di-da-di-da. All right, so Chile and Argentina still look like they're getting trails. Well, actually, hold on, let me see. All right, there's one getting left at 10:20 UTC. That looks like it's gone. Yeah, it looks like those are evaporating pretty darn quickly. All right, just for curiosity's sake, let's load up more intervals so we can see 10 minutes apart. So, all right. So let's keep an eye on well, let's look at this one, all right? That still there, evaporates. Man, those could be chemtrails just because of how long. So there's two parallel with each other. It's at 120. All right, and they're gone now. 120, so it's 2 hours. I guess they could be persistent contrails. If those exist, they usually last 1 to 2 hours. These are lasting 1 to 2 hours. I mean, personally, most contrails, most contrails will just go away very, very, very quickly, not last for 2 hours. But if persistent contrails are present, they can go for 1 to 2 hours. It's much more rare to see them going for 3 to 4 hours, and it's exceedingly rare. It would require perfect conditions to see them lasting 6 to 12 hours, though. I just had not even a meteorologist, just someone say, no, that's not true. There was a study in 1971 that showed that they can last. Yes, they can last 6 to 12 hours. But you know what I saw the other day? They last 25 hours. And most of the time I see them lasting 8 to 12 hours. That should not be the case. And we're just looking off the coast, or actually between Africa and South America. Just looking for anything. Yeah, up here by Europe, there's some weird stuff going down. Downtown, things will be great. All right, we're the southern portion of the Pacific Ocean. Ding, 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 ding. Ding, 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 ding. Looks like there might be trails out here. Looks like there might be trails out here. Looks like Hawaii's possibly getting some trail haze. Did I say California? I don't know if I said California. Hawaii. Trails out here. Trails out here. How long are these lasting though? I'm going to watch this one. It's at 2030. Gosh, it's hard to keep track of. Okay, there. It's still there. Still there. Still there. Gone. 2030. Wait, really? Is that really there that long? All right, that's like 3 or 4 hours. Okay, so this could be. Got some trails up in here. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Up in here. Up in here. That'd be a funny song for Cartman to sing. Because he goes, here. From South Park. Lots and lots of trails. The heck is that thing? That's interesting. See, things like this, I see so many things that make me like think for sure chemtrails are legit. And then I see some things like this where I'm like, I mean, either there's a freaking plane going back and forth in this one area, or there's just a high humidity area here that planes are just passing through that's forming these trails. I mean, is it more likely that the high humidity area is moving? I don't know. I mean, there's so many very odd things happening in the atmosphere. If these aren't chemtrails, if these aren't chemical trails, if these trails are... One thing is for sure, these trails weren't around. I don't understand why there's such an effort to prove that they were always here and that planes always did this. But the trail occurrences are new. That's why the whole freaking world is going on the internet and talking to friends. Even before the internet, I remember people were starting to talk about how weird the skies were looking. Where are those? But if these aren't chemtrails, if all of a sudden we now have these crazy persistent contrails occurring all over the place, then what's causing that? What's creating the increase in frequency of those conditions that allow persistent contrails in the first place? I mean, there's got to be a change in the atmosphere. And that could also be a thing, because keep in mind, we have very interesting things happening to the planet. Apparently we're getting darker, and that has nothing to do with solar radiation management. Apparently we're absorbing more UV light. I mean, there's a lot of really strange shifts. Dane Wigington will talk about some of those articles coming out on his show. There's trails over Alaska. Whoa, look at this giant monster. Dum 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 dum. Dum 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 dum. Gosh, you poor people. You poor people. I'm not aware of how much I sing until I film this show. And then I think about my animals and think these poor freaking dogs and cats. They don't get to escape. There is no peace for them. Lots of trails over here and lots of trails in here and lots of trails over here. There's lots and lots of trails. See, there's... Oops, no. There's a classic example of contrails. Short, faint, sweet, and to the point. There, gone. And there's some thicker trails appearing. There and there. There's trailing going on in western Russia. Oh, and over here as well. We'll switch satellites, get a better view of what's going on over there. Something interesting happening over here. It could be totally natural, but I do see some line, several lines directly next to each other. They're going into the storm, whatever that is. Looks like they're staying still despite everything around it moving, which would mean that it must be up higher, but the color here indicates altitude. This is roughly the same color as what this is. How is this staying perfectly still while everything else is moving when supposedly they're in the same altitude? Spreading out, and then they move. That was weird. That is very strange. I know I keep saying that, but that is weird. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minimum lines right next to each other. And somehow they're managing to stay in the exact same place. Okay, now they're gone. All right, when did they start? They started here. 12:10 UTC. 12:10 UTC. And finally they go at 1850 UTC. It's almost 8 hours of time that they stood perfectly still. I know I keep hyper-focusing on it, but that's weird. I don't know what could cause something like that to happen. Look, I mean, just look. I mean, if the color coding is accurate, how does that make any sense? And then you can really see several all through here. The only way that I could say that that makes sense is if for some reason every hour there were 5 other planes that flew in the identical path and the moisture content was identical here for hours and hours and hours, causing contrails to appear, but then that wouldn't explain how the trails are getting fatter and fatter and fatter without getting laid first. I mean, no, they gotta be, it has to be the exact trail every time for it to get fat like that. That's weird. I gotta play some music when I do this show. Man, even this satellite is limited because these, hold on, 14. Can I not go to now? There's very few hours available to even view for today. What is this? I'm leaving this not on pause so you can see. Yeah, this satellite, for some reason, it's tough for me to see this part of the world. They do not let me just pick that time slot. There's not a lot of time slots to pick from. Oh, wait, okay. Okay, so I have it set to every 30 minutes. Looking up here, let me see what they skipped. Okay, so skipped there to there. Pretty good on the phone until... All right, it hasn't been bad. But there's a lot of little bits of time that are unavailable, just random. Or is it? Bum, bum, bum. Nothing over Africa as per usual. Lots of trails coming in. Lots of trails coming in. Lots of trails coming in. Do you guys remember when I started the show back in March? I said after 1 year, we will find out if trails are legit or not. because as the seasons change, yeah, see there's a big skip in time here, but there were trails over here too. As the seasons change and we continue to only see trails in the same areas, that should be a big chunk of evidence right there. Lots of time skipped here just recently. Oh my gosh, I'm just noticing this. 1800 UTC on, 1800 UTC on the 15th jumped to 9:15 UTC today. That's 25 hours and 15 minutes was skipped. I cannot see what happened. Such BS. Lots and lots of trails coming all through here. You poor Europeans. In fact, I got to look up if anything in Europe has been flooding over the last few days. I know they've had excessive flooding, and I kept warning people because they had crazy fires, and that's when you are ready for some flooding. All right, we'll look that up tomorrow. All right, guys, I hope you have a good night. Thanks for joining. See you next time. Bye.